Hey everyone, it's Michael Goosebumps fan. I'm finally getting around to doing a movie review for the newest Goosebumps film that came out last year in 2018, and that is Goosebumps 2 Haunted Halloween, or it was just called Goosebumps Haunted Halloween around the time it came out in theaters, and they have done so much change this movie. Now the DVDs are just called Goosebumps 2 when they first came out on DVD. I think it's still Goosebumps 2. I'm not entirely sure. They've taken out Haunted Halloween, even on the side of the box, like the spine. It doesn't even say that. It just says Goosebumps 2. They have done so much change around and switcherooing on this whole movie from the get-go, from conception, from 2015 when the original first film came out. They have changed so much stuff and had so many problems with developing the sequel and where to go with it and so many other problems that it's definitely affected by it. The movie it is, I would say. Now, I want to make it up clear. This is the second time I've actually seen this movie. I've only seen it once, and that was when it came out on DVD. I didn't get to make it into the theaters last year to see it. It was kind of just at a weird time of the year. I had a lot going on. But I watched it when it came out on DVD earlier this year. And I liked the movie. I didn't love it, though. I kind of left kind of a wish-washy review on IMDb when I rated it at the time, and was still writing reviews rather than making YouTube videos on reviews and stuff. And I can tell you this time, when I actually watched all the way through, I had a better time this time. I kind of knew what I was getting myself into, and I liked it a lot more this time, which is one thing I would recommend to you folks if you haven't seen the movie yet, or if you've only seen it once and you didn't like it. I'd recommend sitting down and trying it one more time. I personally think that Goosebumps, what I consider Goosebumps when it comes to an adaptation from the books and the way any of the other medias contain the feeling of Goosebumps, I would say the best representation ever of that is the TV show adaptation from the 90s. I don't think anything modern-wise could really hold that feeling of what Goosebumps gave to us 90s kids when we were young. And I don't think these movies do that well either. Now, I really love the first movie. I think the first movie is the best Goosebumps film we'll probably ever get because it feels nothing like a Goosebumps book or a story or a TV episode or anything like that. It basically was a big event film. It was like the Marvel, Civil War. It's basically what it was. And you had everything in there pretty much. Pretty much. Not everything. Not the Haunted Mask. That Haunted Mask isn't really in here either. There's a lot of different monsters that are represented here by kind of rip-off monsters that are kind of knockoffs, but we'll get to that later on. This review is probably going to be a little bit lengthy and a little bit of a rambling kind of rant, but also a positive review because I do like the movie, so don't take it completely as a negative review, even though I have my nitpicks. Where do we start with this movie? So, again, from conception, this movie had trouble. It originally was going to be about Horrorland, from what we understand, and then it changed, and then it became Slappy Halloween, which a lot of people were like, okay, that could be cool. It could end up in the third act in Horrorland, kind of like the end of the first film. And it just kind of ended up becoming kind of a knockoff sequel remake type thing. Like, it's basically the first movie over again, just with a few different things. Brand new actors, completely different cast except for Jack Black playing R.L. Stine, and some cameo scenes throughout the film, which were clearly added on after the movie was filmed entirely. You can just tell. He clearly was not included in the script originally. It's just kind of tacked on, and it feels like that. The film's editing is very sloppy. I don't think the first film feels like this at all. I think it tries its best to feel like the first film, but the editing is so rushed here, man. It feels like it's non-stop with this thing, like just constant changes in camera angle and so many different things, just so quick, constantly. It kind of ruins the pacing a little bit in the first half hour of the movie, just how fast things are moving for whatever reason. And the characters here I like. They aren't as good as the characters in the first film, in my personal opinion. I think that everybody that was cast in the first film, including Champ, I thought were just spectacular. R.L. Stine was fantastic in it, played by Jack Black, of course. And this film kind of just becomes a knockoff. Basically, Haunted Halloween is what this film ended up being called after they renamed it from Slappy Halloween to Haunted Halloween. And now it's just Goosebumps 2, like I said. Depends on what source you're looking at. The DVDs say the DVDs say Goosebumps 2. The IMDb page says Goosebumps 2 Haunted Halloween. Some places, when the film came out, it just said Goosebumps Haunted Halloween. The title was never really figured out. Really never been maintained as far as I can tell. But as sloppy as everything around the film and sometimes within the film typically are, I like the movie. I think it works pretty well, even though it is a rehashing of the first film, almost to the very T. There is a lot more Well, now that I think about it, there's probably just as much CGI in this film as there is in the first movie. But there's not as many monsters. But I actually really like the concept here. Of course, when the first teaser trailer came out for this film, everybody hated it. Half the trailer, if not like 85% of the trailer that first came out for this movie last year, was mostly just like clips from the first film. And no one could figure out why they chose to do that, aside from just trying to extend the film itself. And then the clips we saw, none of us really liked all that much. Like, people were pissed off over the gummy bears thing. I actually kind of like the gummy bears. You know, I thought they weren't that bad, honestly. But the story itself essentially is focused on a girl that is the older sister of our main character. I kind of consider her our main character in this particular movie. I don't really know. It doesn't have the real kind of format and feel that the first film had. But she's trying to write an essay to get into college about fear, you know? And her mom kind of has her running the whole house, essentially. Her mom is a nurse, or some kind of RN type thing, which is a nurse, but still some kind of thing like that, working in a hospital. And the mom is actually the mom from the Goldbergs, which I thought was pretty interesting too, because I don't really like the Goldbergs TV show, but I like her. I think she's genuinely funny. I think all three of the kids in the leading cast are fantastic. They try to be, at least. One of them is the little boy that played Ben Hanscom, my personal favorite character in Stephen King's It. He played in the remakes from 2017 and currently in 2019 with It Chapter 2 being released. And he can be a good actor. He was in those two films, or at least the first one, because I haven't seen Chapter 2 yet, but still, in the first movie he was good there. I know he can act. This film has so little for him, and he feels so awkward, and I don't like him anywhere as much as I liked him as Ben Hanscom. So it's not really his fault, but it kind of is. You know, it's kind of a mixed bag of who's on the fault here. But the older sister, I actually like her pretty well. And the best friend named Sam, I actually don't know where this young man's from. I don't think I've seen him in anything personally off the top of my head, but he's pretty good. I actually think his comedic timing for the most part is pretty good. I liked his performance. I liked all of their performances. Just the kid playing Ben Hanscom from It, you know, he's trying, and I don't think it's entirely his fault, like I said. Partially, but not all the way. Jack Black is here to play R.L. Stine. It's really not... He's on the screen for maybe a minute and a half of the entire movie. Like, it's kind of just, he pops in every once in a while on the screen, and that's about it. There's a really great reference to Stephen King's It involving R.L. Stine that I love. It's one of my favorite jokes ever, from Goosebumps or anything like it. Tons of CGI. Basically, the two friends are running a business called the Junk Brothers. And they essentially will go to people's houses and pick up their junk and throw out old junk and kind of collect for free what they want to use or possibly can find some kind of value in. And they get a call to go to a kind of abandoned house, and they end up at this place. And it actually is the old house that R.L. Stine lived in the first film. It looks like a completely different neighborhood, though, but it is the same house. And they go inside of it, and they start cleaning out the house and stuff. They actually move this cat on a mantelpiece above a fireplace. And a little trap door opens behind the fireplace, this actual base where you put the logs at. And they happen to look, and there's a trunk in there. They pull it out, there's like a letter inside and stuff. They start reading that, they read out these words out loud. They happen to turn around, and there's a ventriloquist dummy sitting inside, which just so happens to be Slappy, of course. And the weirdest thing, they had the guy that was supposed to be, I think this is the case, they had the original guy who was supposed to play Slappy in the first film before they ended up letting Jack Black go ahead and do the voice and stuff in the first movie for Slappy. He plays Slappy here. I think his name is like Mike Wingert, or Mick Wingert. I don't know, I didn't look it up, but I know it's not Jack Black playing the voice for Slappy here. But he sounds identical to Jack Black's performance, which was amazing to me. I think the laugh is a very different type of laugh. I don't like the laugh here as much as I liked it in the first movie, personally. I think it's a little out of place at times. It's very goofy. But this Slappy, as much as I love the first film and I love the first Slappy in that film, I kind of like this Slappy a little bit more. He feels like a really good blend of the book Slappy, the first movie Slappy, and the TV episode Slappy, from Not a Living Dummy 3 specifically. He feels like a really good blend of all of them, and I really like it. Slappy really just wants to become a family member to Sonny, which is the kid from It, and his older sister and the mother. He basically wants to be a part of their family and call them brothers and sisters and stuff like that. He wants to be involved with that for whatever reason. Now, one of the things a lot of people might be asking immediately is, how did Slappy escape the books from the first film? Well, what I like and appreciate about this movie, that I've constantly defended about this movie, continuity does not matter in Goosebumps. It's never mattered. Usually, Horrorland's era of books is about that. That's about it. Because usually if you have a Not a Living Dummy book, right? Slappy can be crushed by a steamroller at the end of the first book, and then the next book just pop up and he's completely fine. There's no scars or anything. Nobody knows how he came back. It's not like the Child's Play franchise. He doesn't have to explain how he came back. Neither does R.L. Stine, so get over it. This movie's kind of the same situation. They don't really explain how Slappy managed to get out of the books or anything like that. And they actually bring in the manuscript thing from the first movie about using the manuscripts themselves that R.L. Stine wrote to try to collect monsters and keep them inside of the bundle. But anyway, kind of getting further down the line with the story, I don't want to tell you too much because I don't want to ruin too much for you. This movie's only about an hour and 20 so minutes, and there's not a whole lot that happens in the movie. At times, it kind of slows up a little bit because it's trying so hard for ad-lib type comedy, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It doesn't work anywhere as good as it does in the first film, in my opinion. The next door neighbor is played by the guy, I think his name is Mr. Chow from The Hangover. I forgot the actual actor's name himself, but I love him. He's always funny. And he's okay here. He tries his best. He's actually a big Halloween enthusiast. He's that guy in your neighborhood that dresses up his entire yard with so many different decorations and stuff at Halloween time. And he does it because he's excited, but he always says it's for the kids in the neighborhood and stuff. And I really like him. I think he's a good kind of add-on to the movie as a kind of cameo celebrity type thing. He works. I like him here. But Slappy starts trying to take out people around the family that are bothering the family. For example, the older sister in the family has a boyfriend relationship type thing. The guy is cheating on her and stuff, and it breaks her heart. And Slappy goes after that guy, and it's pretty funny. There's bullies that beat up Sonny and Sam all the time. Slappy deals with them in a really funny way, especially the day that they first get Slappy, before he introduces that he can talk and walk around and stuff. But there's a lot of CGI based around Slappy that I really find finicky. The first time I saw the movie, I thought it looked fine, and sometimes in the second viewing, it looks okay. But there's a lot of moments where it's not a ventriloquist dummy that they've built. It's physically a CGI model on screen, and it looks awful. It looks like it's from that little phone app game that you can play of Goosebumps when the first film came out. It's very, very cheap looking. And the movie itself feels like a TV movie for kids, like The Haunting Hour. If you've seen The Haunting Hour from R.L. Stine, then you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of the same idea of just a very, very low-budget TV movie feel to the production of those episodes. Now, I love Haunting Hour, don't get me wrong. I actually think Haunting Hour is much better than this movie, for the most part. But I like this a lot because it's Goosebumps, and I enjoy it, and I think it's a fun time. And I'd recommend it to you if you're looking for something fun to watch. Now, one of the big things that I want to talk about here, it's kind of a spoiler, but kind of not. I think everybody who's watching this video has probably already seen the film and probably does not care about what anybody else has to say about these particular things about this movie. But where did all the monsters come from, and why are we basically rehashing what we did in the first film? For anybody who hasn't seen this, that's not what happened. Slappy basically has a power in this film, and this is something cool too, kind of referencing like the books, where Slappy will get a new ability just out of nowhere in the middle of a new book that came out, and you don't know why, and it never occurs ever again. You know, great example. The chirping noise from Goosebumps Wanted, Son of Slappy. I think it's like the second book of that series, something like that. That whole thing, that power, never comes back as far as I know from Goosebumps. Very stupid. Very stupid. That book was really bad. And really rough, honestly. It shouldn't have been called Son of Slappy. It shouldn't have had the cover it had, as cool of a cover as it was. But anyway, essentially, Slappy goes into a department store at Halloween time, of course, and he brings decorations to life. And I remember right when the first film, well, when this movie was getting ready to come out, and everybody was already thinking it was going to be terrible and just a giant rehash, because that's what it was marketed as. It looked terrible when it was first coming out. I started hearing rumors that Slappy is bringing decorations to life, and that immediately fascinated me, that whole idea. One of the best examples of how cool that is. They referenced the first film with the abominable snowman, excuse me. He comes to life. He's basically just a mask on a rack. Same thing with the Wolfman and a couple of other creatures that were not in the first movie. They're just masks that are being advertised under the Goosebumps label, and they just grow arms and legs and eyeballs and crawl off the wall, and then they're just the creatures that we saw from the first movie. I thought that was awesome. One of my favorites is the witches. I think the witches are so cool. Some of my favorite Goosebumps villains ever are in this movie. Those witches are so cool. They're basically a bunch of witch hats that came off of the aisle shelves, landed on the ground, started spinning around a whole lot. A bunch of smoke came out of them when Slappy brought them to life with the little curse thing that he had, or that he said. And they're basically these really tall, wicked witch-looking things from Wizard of Oz, but they have like a green globe, kind of like Mysterio from Spider-Man Far From Home, or just Mysterio in general from Spider-Man comics. And it's like a black, hazy smoke floating inside of the actual domes, right? I love that. It was such a brilliant idea, and such a gorgeous monster design. I love that about it. I could not give this film enough credit for its monster designs. Everything from the reference to Curly, like there's an actual skeleton walking around with a skeleton dog, and I thought that was great. There's just a lot of fun stuff here. There's not really any jump scares or anything. It's not scary. It's kind of like the same thing as the first film. It's more of a comedy, adventure, Jumanji type thing. The first film is more inspired by Jumanji than this film is, but still it tries to mimic that with as low of a budget as it could possibly do that with. And I like the movie. I don't think it's as bad as people made it out to be. I know a lot of famous Goosebumps YouTuber people here on YouTube that did their reviews and they hated the movie. They really honestly hated it. And I'm a little surprised by that. I've seen a lot of bad movies. I love movies, and I've seen so many awful movies in my life that this doesn't even come close to that. This movie doesn't faze me. I actually appreciated it since the first time I saw it. I like it more now, like I said. And I just think it deserves a fair shake. There's a lot of things about it that really impress me on a technical level. A lot of things about it with the budget it has that doesn't look like it's much more than an episode of The Haunting Hour, like I said, that it utilized really well. And even Slappy, he's kind of threatening. There's a whole thing in the film that involves the mother that is absolutely horrific. And it would have scared me to death when I was a child. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. That portion of the movie in the third act was so creepy, and just, there was something that happened with the mom here that petrifies me. And every time I watch the movie, it has bothered me and terrified me. I don't know what it is about that gets to me. For people who do know, I'm not going to spoil it, but still, there's something about that gets to me tremendously, and it bothers me on a deep psychological scale, level, whatever, surface, I don't know. But it really affects me, and I think a lot of the film affects me in that way. The gummy bears thing, I like that. I think it's cute, and it kind of becomes threatening, but it's also still cute at the same time, kind of like the little, the garden gnome people from the first movie, that in this film, they have the same design, but they don't turn into that. When they come to life, they turn into like these green-skinned zombie troll things. Kind of cool. I kind of like that as well. But I like the film. Yeah, it's a rehash of the first movie. I think it has a lot going for it. I think that the jokes aren't anywhere as funny as they were in the first film. They're trying real hard, man. And there's bait for a sequel, a third Goosebumps film. Supposedly it's confirmed to be made in the next 5 years or so. I don't see it happening. I don't think it's going to happen. I made a video a while back talking about, is there going to be a Goosebumps 3? I don't think so. I still stand by the fact I don't think it's going to happen. No matter how much people tell me it's probably going to happen, I don't think it's going to happen. I would like it. I would like to enjoy that. I would like for Jack Black to come back as R.L. Stine and be in the forefront again. I think that this film could have benefited so much from Jack Black being involved with it more. I think it would have been a more enjoyable film in general, because that's one of the biggest pieces of magic about the first movie, is just his performance as R.L. Stine. As out of character and not like the real life R.L. Stine as it was, it fits so well with that first movie and made it so enjoyable and so funny. Every time I watch that movie, I laugh non-stop because of Jack Black's performance and because of the kid playing Champ. Those two teamed up are like Abbott and Costello for me in modern era. They're fantastic. In this movie, you don't have that. It's just the three kids trying to deal with Slappy and trying to deal with all the monsters in the town and stuff, and the chaos surrounding that, and it's kind of slow building up to this whole Halloween night fiasco. But it works. I like it. I think it works for the most part. It's not perfect. It could easily be improved upon. Everything from the sloppy editing and onward, it has really big issues. But it's not a bad movie. I really think that's a stupid way of looking at this, honestly. You can have your opinions all you want. I just don't agree with that in any way, shape, or form. I think it's almost lazy to call this film a bad movie. It's just complicated, you know? But still. And then there's this whole thing, too, involving Tesla, Nikola Tesla, that I thought was really interesting. I thought it was very cool to have that involved in the movie. Basically, this film takes place in the town that Tesla had opened up his, Tesla coil, right? That was really cool. I like that a lot. That felt like a Goosebumps thing that would be in like the Most Wanted era of books. I really like this. I think it has a lot to offer. It ain't perfect. Like I said, it's not the best sequel we could have probably had. If we would have had Horrorland, it would have been a lot better off. But it would have taken a lot more money and a lot more building and stuff to try to put towards this to make that. But I honestly think it would have been more successful than what this film ended up being, because we all know this movie probably bombed. I'm pretty confident I read that this movie bombed at the box office. And that breaks my heart because I love Goosebumps, and I want more Goosebumps. Whether it be TV or movies or anything. I'll take anything I can get. We're still getting books, and that's pretty cool. But I don't think I trust Netflix with this because of all their SJW politics and whatnot. I don't think I trust anybody, Hulu or anyone, with making Goosebumps TV shows now. I don't even trust like Cartoon Network or anybody with that. So I kind of don't want that either. I would rather take the movies where we're kind of safe for now, you know, from politics, being involved in the movies, but still, I worry. I worry about that because, you know, the comics, IDW's current comic basis for Goosebumps has had plenty of politics thrown into it, just nonsense. Goosebumps does not need that. And they do it because of just being spiteful human beings. But I don't want Goosebumps to be ruined like that in adaptation form. But then at the same time, I have this weird feeling that maybe Goosebumps needs to stay in the 90s. Maybe we don't need these newer adaptations of it because they can't survive, because this generation does not like Goosebumps the way we did. You know, I grew up in 1994, of course, was when I was born. And I loved Goosebumps from like the late 90s onward. Absolutely adored it. Slappy is what got me into that whole thing. And I don't think Goosebumps can survive in this situation. I don't think it can. I don't have the confidence in Goosebumps surviving in 2020s. I just don't. I love the books and stuff. I think that's about it. The collectors are going to buy and buy and buy and buy, but you know, casual fans, they don't exist for Goosebumps. This is such an obscure obsession, an obscure kind of hobby to have. You're not going to have a whole lot of that. So it's a bummer, and I hate that I feel this way. I don't think we're going to get Goosebumps 3 as much as the bait's there at the end of this movie. I would like to see what they would do with the bait they put at the end of this movie. I think it'd be really cool. Especially because it'd be a whole setup and a whole world that we have not seen before. And it would be great. But I don't have the confidence that we're getting another one. So I'm just going to kind of let my hopes down easy, because this movie could have been better. The next film could be fantastic if they would play it smart. If they really would, it could be really great. But for now, this is what we have. Goosebumps 2 Haunted Halloween, or just Goosebumps 2 as the DVD says. Anyway, guys, I'm sorry for rambling for so long. I just wanted to do a really in-depth review about this movie and really appreciate it for what it is and what I feel towards this movie. But yeah, if I had to rate this on a 5-star basis, I would probably give Goosebumps 2 probably a 4 out of 5 stars. I like it a lot. This is based more on enjoyability than actual production and quality and all that. But on my personal enjoyability scale, I really like Goosebumps 2, especially this time around, on this viewing. It's not anywhere as close to being as great as the first film. The first film would be like a 5 out of 5 for me. I think it's perfect. There's no way you could do a better movie than that with what they were going for, with like a big montage of a bunch of Goosebumps monsters and stuff. Which, speaking of that, there is sort of a haunted mask type thing in this movie that I really like. There's actually a store clerk manager guy who Slappy throws a mask on the night that he brings the decorations to life, and the guy turns into like a hunchback, and he's deformed and stuff, and he kind of becomes crazy and has like a deformed head and everything. A lot of people are mad about that and saying that's a dumb way of having the haunted mask in this movie, and that it's not the haunted mask and all that. I understand that you wanted Carly Beth. I like this guy, though. I actually like the look of this creature and stuff, even though a lot of people don't. I thought it worked great. You know, I really liked a lot of this movie. It feels a lot cheaper, but I think it's pretty decent. For the most part, I would say it is. Anyway, 4 out of 5 stars, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on my review, on the movie itself, all that down in the comment section down below. I'm currently reading the Goosebumps Haunted Halloween novelization, and I'm about halfway through this. I'm trying to get this over with in the next couple of days. I don't know how fast I'm going to be able to get through it. It is a longer one. It's about 160 or so pages. Trying to get through it as fast as possible. Tomorrow is Sunday, of course, or today is Sunday, by the time you see this. So I'm trying my best to, you know, get through this and read it. Of course, next week is October, so we're going to be delving more and more into more Halloween-type books. I need to buckle down and read a lot more, instead of watching a bunch of movies and just kind of relaxing and reading some other things like Frankenstein from Mary Shelley. But anyway, I like the book so far. I think the book might be a little bit better than the movie, but it doesn't have all the ad-libbing of comedy and stuff like the book or like the movie does. So there is some differences there. I'll talk about my review at some point. But anyway, what are your thoughts on everything from the book, the movie, my review, all that stuff? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. What do you think should happen with Goosebumps 3? What would you have done to have improved this particular movie in total? I would love to hear your thoughts down below, guys. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being patient with these longer videos I've been putting out recently. Anyway, may the Lord Jesus Christ bless you guys today, and goodbye.